I've said everything you need to hear, I suppose. So welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It's week 6 here for the PEL as we are in phase 2 currently. It's our day 1 of our week to get things going. My name's Kyle Laris. I'm your host, as well as apparently just before you heard me for a brief moment as well. And joining me to my left-hand side, as always, it's Froz and it's Avenger. We're back, boys. We're back for more PEL action. Excited to be back? You good? Yeah.
Always excited to be back, right? And I mean, this week it's going to be a little bit more special, I think, because this is when the pressure is starting to get into the players.
I hope so. Because so far we've seen a lot of, I feel like we've seen a lot of teams not having a lot of pressure, but they've been making some plays, and also when we've been talking with the players, some of the interviews, they're like, yeah, we've still got like 50 games to go, we've got 60 more games to go, but now we're getting very close, and I feel like the pressure, especially on the bottom half, is definitely starting to cook up a bit. Also see it, you talked about it in intro, ENCE's falling a bit behind, and some of these teams are, it's getting very close. It's getting very exciting.
Yeah, definitely. So let's kind of focus on the positives of what we saw last week, though.
Yeah.
Starting up towards the very, very top, of course, where we saw G2 being able to take the #1 spot last week in terms of the points accumulated throughout that week. And of course, they did start off very fiery in Phase 2 with a win there as well when it came to the overall week standing. So it does seem like, as much as, you know, through the weeks in between were up and down and stuff like that, G2 is still stable, G2 is still on course to be going to GLL.
Definitely. I mean, there was one of the 3 weeks they've done over 100 points accumulated throughout the whole weekend. And I mean, the 2 weekends that they were bad, because that wasn't that bad. They still had 70 and 73 points, which is the average of what TSM have gotten every weekend.
Yeah. And as you can see here, some of the shakeups in the standings as a whole. We have many shakeups when it comes to our overall relegation spots, our bottom 4 here as it continues on. We'll get to talk about that in a few moments' time. But truly, for ENCE and Vitality, 2 teams that have now found themselves truly wound up down there, it's a bit of a rough spot, Avenger, that they're going to need to claw out of.
They need to really start doing something different now, because it's not working so far. We're 60 games through. At this point, last phase, they had 200 points more what they have now after 60 games, and they've really been struggling. But looking at the top 8 here, Pittsburgh Knights again being extremely consistent here, and after the week before this, they had a 5th spot. Now last week they had a 3rd, really proving their consistency, and they really want to get into the money first of all, but they also want to try to join that middle pack where the 5th spot is really still up for grabs.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, let's talk about Knights here for a brief moment, Froz. Yet last week was massive for them. They got themselves a 3rd place on the board, and it really felt like after week 3, where they had lackluster performances from week to week, looking at week 4, they got 5th, and then into this 3rd place now.
Yeah.
Tables are turning for Pittsburgh Knights.
I mean, definitely. The first 3 weeks was very weak performance coming out from the Pittsburgh Knights.
Yeah.
But they stepped it up so good, and I feel like they got this team synergy going on really good as well. So I mean, you can see clearly how they're playing so much better as well, not just individually, but as a team as a whole.
Of course, 4 games for you today. We're starting on Miramar and Eragel. As always, that's the usual schedule of programming here for the PEL Phase 2. And back to this point here for a moment, Martin. Do you believe, or did you think that it would take Pittsburgh Knights a little bit of kind of time to warm up? We've obviously seen their players, their new roster now, perform pretty well towards the end with teams like Raise Your Edge when it came into Phase 1, etc. Did you think they needed that kind of warm-up to eventually kind of get it going?
For me, it's really interesting to see that we have some teams that are also a massive roster change, like Na'Vi, some of the other teams as well, where you see massive changes, where they adapt extremely quickly, their synergies already rolling super nice together. But with Knights, it took some more time. We've seen Snark, for example. He tweeted a bit about it, that he didn't feel like he was on the same page as the other guys. So it takes time. It takes time to kind of get into the same synergy. And also from Reels and Drayden over to Warner and Snark, it's 2 very different playstyles that they've been playing. And Warner and Snark, they had to kind of also more adapt to how Reels and Drayden have been playing and how their calling is for that.
I mean, it also comes down to Snark and Wanted. They've playing together in Raise Your Edge before this, but they never played with Drayden and Reels before. So from the start of the phase, it was a little bit of a learning segment for them, making sure that they can all be on the same page, as Martin said. And it seems like they've found each other right now, and it's looking good.
Another team that we briefly just saw there, before we do get our first game going for the day, was M19. It was a big week for them last week, Martin. 6th place in total, and that actually pushed them out of relegation spots. So they've got to be feeling very, very hyped to continue that kind of pace.
Dave tried to pull out some of what's the secret and trying to get into the mysterious man, the Wanderer, and him getting one game with 8 kills and another game with 10 kills, winning themselves a Brazilian barbecue from me and Frost. That was extremely impressive, and I want to see that continue. We talked about them for some time, and they've been kind of a lackluster performance throughout some of the weeks, and now they're really stepping it up. And I feel like that's the potential. That's what these players are capable of doing together as a team when they really have the synergy going.
I mean, you also got to consider how much the Wanderer was popping off last weekend. Twice he was over 1k damage, and one of the games he actually got himself double digits with 10 kills.
Another member of this roster as a whole, of all the teams that we have available to us, is ENCE. They did not have the best of weeks last week, of course, and now are in relegation spot. Guys, this team hopes for more, I think.
Definitely. I mean, we had a team last week that made 23 points. It's 2 points more than we saw Reciprocity did, which was the 2nd worst performance so far. But I really hope to see them step up this week. I hope they have made some changes, and I'm looking into it.
By the end of Phase 1, after 60 games, they had double amount of points almost than they have right now after 60 games.
Got to step it up. And of course, here as we go into game number 1 of week 6, a team like TSM, currently in 5th place on Border Patrol, is going to have to look out for their backs as teams are looking to catch up for GLL. Let's head over to the commentators.
It has been a while. Actually, it's been about a week for me, but both of us together, it has been a little bit of a hot minute. Rich, it feels good to be back with you, buddy.
It's good to see you. How's things?
Yes, we're on.
First time for Phase 2. Been a while.
It's not the first time of Phase 2 since
Us together.
we casted the start of Phase 2.
Oh, we didn't have it on desk. You really are tired.
It's been years. I am very tired, but you know, how's everyone doing in chat? How are you guys feeling out there? Hopefully you're ready for some PUBG. We're going to start it nice and easy. We're Miramar. It's nice and chill. We're going to have a nice relaxing time. To start with, at least. Anything out of the ordinary we're seeing. So we saw a couple of switch-ups, a couple of changes here and there, teams going to their secondary drops more often. Nothing wild. It's been pretty smooth sailing recently, but anything standing out to us?
Not really. Certainly at the moment, we are coming down to the point where there will be a cut-off point of no return, especially if you want to be getting out of that relegation zone. It's still going to be up for contention all the way down at the bottom, middle of the pack. But certainly if you want to be going to the Grand Slam now, if you want to be making it to the next major, it's your time to shine. You've got to step up, you've got to get some frags, and you've got to get those wins on the board, because these boys are not going to be waiting for nobody. Circle does pop in. It's not a massive rough one. It is on the opposing side of the flight path, so you will see a fair amount of transitions all the way across. Liquid, FaZe, they're laughing. FaZe especially, in the fact that they have dropped a little bit early, got a vehicle, they can now take the pick of the bunch, really, where they want to go. If they want to go to Kumasiri, really, and take up residency, they can do. They can take the crossroads that is just north of that and maybe catch some people on transition. It's going to be a difficult one, especially from teams. I mean, you look at that eastern front, all the way from the north, Winstrike, NIP, TSM, you just look at the curvature of the circle, and the edge of it's going to be a rough ride through. You'd expect these teams to go center and just drive into it. Hell, even Liquid might go even earlier.
The thing is, these guys are actually quite close to watching FaZe rotate, so if they've got some guns, I see an AK there on Jeems, I don't think that's too much of an issue. They've managed to kind of separate apart. It's early information finding. There's a couple of shots coming out towards FaZe, and Jeems is on the chase.
He's going to go for him. Oh my god, he hit him in the head.
Oh, the headshot, let's go. Jeems is on the hunt, yeah. Fuzzface just got out. Maybe they're trying to hedge their bets and just make sure they don't all die here. Jeems is just herding cattle at this point. This is mean.
He's hunting them.
Oh, they have nothing, Jeems. This is cruelty at its finest. This could be the entirety of FaZe done for. And keep in mind, this was their circle. This is a great situation for them if Jeems could land a shot. Jeems, what are you doing?
It's the ammo. The ammo's the problem. It's not provided he makes sure they all die with every single bullet, then he could kill them all here.
He could, but his cattle are running around here. Mexi is playing hide and seek, and well, it's not gone well. He has been found. Now Uber is just hiding away. Uber is not going to move.
This is one of the most proactive moves I have ever seen in PUBG. To be able to push out like that and understand where people are going to be dropping, where people are going to be transitioning from. the aggression is absolutely fine. At this stage in the game, you've got a vehicle,
really
you've got
smart.
guns. Let's push out and let's stop them advancing forward. That's amazing.
And I mean, you're going to know who that is as well. You may not be fully aware, but you can probably have a good shout. It's either going to be maybe Winstrike or FaZe. This team's very much close by to you, so that's really smart. The Knights have moved in quite early, though. I would be curious if Team Liquid are aware that Snark's moved quite early towards the north side of Picado. It's not unheard of, but this is a very quick movement from the Knights. And we know that Team Liquid are very light on loot. Samty's still out on his own. You saw James obviously chasing. So this could be a problem. And CrowCrowd are actually on the move as well. So Liquid need to kind of... We all know they can loot quick. There's no disputing that. They are one of the quicker teams at looting. They can do it swiftly. But there's a lot of teams now gunning for that central area. And this has obviously slowed down FaZe drastically too.
A little bit of an IQ play from two players having nothing. You saw FuzzFace just jumping out the back and completely running away from that. Let two of them go off in the car. ENCE then splits, and all of a sudden Uber just hits the deck and stands still. So rather than running around willy-nilly, they've at least split away from them and managed to keep three alive. But still, certainly for Liquid to exert your dominance like that and push up so aggressively. We mentioned transitions. You can already see Unity just lingering here on the side.
Wookie, no.
Oh, no.
Oh, no, he's dead. He's done
that's
for.
gone.
He is 100% done for here. Wookie's had an absolute disaster to begin with, unless Michael or someone could do something of a miracle to save him. That's not happened. That's a big loss to start with, and that could be another. Gustav's in danger. The car's gone, and now he's in the open. This is horrible terrain. This is around Picado. You know what? You've got that big hill on the side, then just open terrain. You do have a trade coming back in from Michael, at least being able to try and quell the threat that Unity, the amount of pressure they're putting in. But that's a huge loss for TSM.
I'm intrigued to see what Unity do here. It would be a good option just to bail from this one and don't get too aggressive. You saw what James did from Liquid. He didn't get too greedy. He said, okay, we've got a kill now. We've done a little bit of damage. More enough, you've just been a nuisance to FaZe and you've slowed them down, stopped them in the tracks. It's going to slow down the looting, slow down their position, and again, take 1 point and one player away from them. Unity, don't get too aggressive. Maybe get a car and just run away from this.
Yeah, I'm glad we're looking at Picado at the moment because this isn't just the three teams. It's not just Unity, Liquid, and TSM. You've actually got Vitality on the hillside still overlooking this. And if they have some range, which I feel as though they might do, they could have some really good vision on this. James is still looting. We've seen, this is what the issue was with Team Liquid because they went for that aggressive play early on, which I liked. The knock-on effect is this situation. Rory on the move. He's joined in with Michael. They're going to be trying to condense towards Gustav, maybe just find a bit of cover for a second, try and consolidate everything they have because they've just lost down a player, and that's a big, big loss to start with.
James a lot to bail out of this one. Needs to be a little bit quicker. It's a dodgy gap to get down, and
He loves a dodgy gap, he does.
he's made it work, whatever happened there.
Off he goes.
They're a tiny bit split up, and again, this all comes down to, I mean, you saw him, he's had to go back and continue looting because he had no gear apart from the AKM, but he wanted that point. And the reason that he probably wants that, one, he knows who it is, he knows where they're going, but more importantly, FaZe is only 1 point behind them knocking on the door, so if you can push them further back, you knock them down in the money rankings, and potentially, if other teams come up, you might even knock them out of the top 5 to go into the Grand Slam.
Ooh, and I was looking at M19's rotation route. This pulls them right very close towards FaZe Clan. Now, I can imagine FaZe are very light on loot because they didn't get to their spot in the end. They kind of just pulled up where they were. So this is going to be interesting. DA is going towards that side of things as well. I wonder how close M19 get. They're still considering where they're heading. They haven't fully committed just yet. It looks like they're scouting, which is a really good idea at this point. But that central area is still very compact. It looks like CrowCrowd, Liquid, TSM, Vitality, Winstrike, and it looks like Winstrike and Knights and maybe NIP could clash potentially northwest of Picado. Even G2 could join in on this. And there's old Reciprocity yet to get in the circle, but they're close.
All this kind of starts off with that circle and that flight path, though, being so close together. Oh, excuse me, not so close together, but in the edge of the circle being so close together that everyone's dropping on the edge of it and it has to just transition one way, basically, into the center. It's put everyone in a bit of a sticky and very close scenario. Vitality will be just on the eastern side, kind of watching them fall. They've got plenty of space to work with. Not a lot of space here for M19, getting tagged up on the way through. CrowCrowd, Unity, TSM, Team Liquid, the Knights, all side by side. Samty's on his own. We'll have to fight for a compound and try and peacock some players away and make sure they don't come flying his way. Should the circle go there, though, Liquid will be sitting pretty. That's if they can make it to him on transition. There's going to be a lot of guns on the roadside, creeping and peeping. Wanderer doing his usual wandering away on his own, but he's going to StarLadder and make it work at range. Meanwhile, Picado, still guns high here. Still two teams kicking it in the back. I mean, it is central at least.
Hello, Chris. Just finding a wild squeaky. I think that's the other ENCE members maybe heading off from that one. So that's a quick little pickup. That's not bad at all. Good old SLR. One of the top fraggers previously, that's why I was down with Dave. That interview felt hard drawn. Blood and Stone felt to be one of those situations. There it is. In my head, it was a majestic SLR shot, really. They were just spamming away. TSM, relatively comfortable in here. If you ever watched a TSM player stream, whether it be, you know, Rory, Break, or any of the others, it's always Picardo all the damn time. So I'm pretty sure he's happy, and he's very comfortable here, old Rory, and he's not the first one dead, so we're all pleased.
High Rise is my home. Scoom's always in the casino, which is fine. And everyone else everyone else is just in the boxing ring, kicking the hell out of one another, which I'm okay with, because then I've got the gear and everyone else is dead.
Yeah.
Circle, updates, and we are going to the north.
Oh, that's nice. It hasn't actually put anyone massively out of spot. I mean, it's awkward for the teams, obviously, in the southwest, but they've also kind of just shuffled in. M19 looted in the south when this plane path comes in. That's not surprising. They weren't out in the far west. FaZe had to deal with what they were given at this point. So this isn't actually that bad all in all. They've kind of been given a decent shot at things. This isn't too rough just yet.
Picardo's in the center, but there is a good and bad side to that. The good side being, yeah, you're laughing. You can sit where you are, continue looting, continue doing a bit of damage, maybe have a cheeky fight or two and pick up some points. The problem is that G2 is sitting on the hill in the north, and it's basically a three-way split to get out of Picardo, and every single road may be covered. If you go to the west, you're going to have the Knights in Liquid. If you go to the east, Vitality are on the hillside looking down from the back of the mini crater. And in the north, G2 are just eyes on the prize. They have the entire cliff face. So Picardo, should the circle not be favorable, it's going to be extremely difficult to get out of.
100%. But this is where I think, for me as well, scouting becomes so prevalent and being very diligent about, you know, gathering correct information. Unlike Slasher, for example, you have to make sure where you're going is correct and making sure you keep yourself, you know, really aware of your surroundings, not just jumping to conclusions.
Power Grid, two teams in here, NIP and Na'Vi. NIP always tend to go for the more elevated building at the back, so you can look through the little post boxes and see if you can pick one off. I think M19 Elite player just fallen off the back, or maybe actually the Wanderer was shot off the back of it, but certainly they do lose two. Nope, they've pulled up. It was the bike, one off the back, one down. DA happily collect those 2 points. Easy peasy for Ira. At the moment, it will be a bit of a standoff here over the part. Again, you don't really have to push on this. The fact that Gaxi can just peer out of those portholes and do some damage with that mini, there's no point in even pushing it. Oh, actually, the rest of NIP have been proactive in USP. Oh, as I say that.
Yeah, don't push into Na'Vi, though.
Yeah, that's
like, please. Na'Vi still scare the life out of me as a team when they dig in, and they love these sort of circles because they'll come in slow from the north. That's their kind of follow-up spot.
They're not going to push
now,
this.
I wonder how close FaZe gets to this. I wonder, of course, you can't. Like, there's that little bit of a gap. There's still like 20, 30 meter run that's just...
They're going to go back for him.
Oh, you nasty boy.
Yeah, they are. They're going back for it. This is dangerous for me because Na'Vi will be encroaching on this position. You're going to be walking into just guns up, ready to go here.
They are safe. I'd say that when they can't drive through. A doozy can see it, but no one's going to push in. I don't think they're going to push into a compound like this. I think it's too risky at this point. But you also don't want to share it. So they will eventually probably, you know, get loot, get, you know, your, I guess, utility, and then maybe play retake. FaZe have turned up. M19 went on a similar path. They headed slightly kind of northwest. They kind of edged around the circle. And it's a good shout. They know that Winstrike will probably be around here because Winstrike obviously loot over this side, but they'll know the terrain won't be too rife with teams, whereas that south, that east side will be more likely to be very busy. We do have Raise Your Edge and Reciprocity getting relatively close by. Again, it is Picardo keeping everyone busy at the moment.
Further afield then, we'll give you some sort of status update of what's going on. You can see Power Grid on your screen now. To the west of this, you have the rest of FaZe Clan, all three members that are still alive, at least just looking at the distance. Scoom just got a face full of lead there. Fast rail with the M24 at range, picks him off. Winstrike further down on the west coast, M19, the rest of them. As we keep going around the circle, DA just a little bit more towards the southwest. Further down south, ENCE, Scoom and the rest of Reciprocity. You can see it on the map now. Raise Your Edge might make a push on this one.
Yeah, I can see Sigsy there already going for this. Northeast circle comes in. Picardo is still in play. That rock side the G2 are on is going to be rife with teams. The north, the east, all of those teams will have to get there, but that death road coming up Picardo is going to be a problem. But let's get on board with Raise Your Edge because they are pushing this compound. And they've had issues with this before. They've lost out to G2 in similar situations. They have to be very crisp, very clean. They have to be all together and trade effectively. If they can't, they cannot take this. They'll have to look towards a circle. circle. And considering their position, they should be able to head east now. I think they know that, you know, them being one of the late teams with Reciprocity, that eastern side should be kind of absent of a vast amount of players. So that might be their bigger priority here. I can imagine the call will come in. Let's get moving on that. But here comes the crash. This is Picardo still. This is incredibly busy. The West is about to have the same thing. NIP, Na'Vi, FaZe, Winstrike, it's all going to be there. But you can see this is a very close battle, probably for the color blue, it looks like at the moment.
If Orange had a grenade, that was 2 of them easy dead. Blaston can look from up high and keep them in check. Tizzering going for the YOLO nade straight in the window. Orange is in a perfect position to completely crunch them here. Here's the grenade. He should have gone earlier when there were 2 of them.
Oh, that's a
Squeezed up. He was trying to hide on the ledge, wasn't he?
Yeah, a little bit.
There is a trade-off, though.
Oh, that nade's probably done him, or it's going to be close to. Yeah, close enough. That's going to be a hard revive if you're going to run for that one. And yeah, Tab's already there. So this is going to be a bit brutal, but Team Liquid trying to go for some steals. You'll see that fire in the back lines. That's them trying to get into it. Lovely spray. And I've got to say, I've been loving seeing 4x sprays becoming more and more prevalent. I doubt it's only people for running that in, you know, your generic casual games, but seeing these players doing it is awesome. ENCE and Raise Your Edge, a bit of revenge from that first kill coming out from Chris. So that's a nice little bit of a spin around there in the same compound, same area. So this is very hard to hold. Now, Raise Your Edge do have the larger side of things, but the problem is they don't have that hard cover. You know that if you ever played those open buildings, you can be spotted quite easily. It looks like that's where they're trying to use that hillside off the back of it.
I like that you touched on the 4 times. You do generally see a lot of people going with the M4, and I think that just comes down to how many attachments you can put on it.
Oh, the things, I
the
still
stock,
say it's
the
the
front
best
barrel, the under barrel, like the amount of grips and stuff that can go on it, especially with the stock, it just helps out so much. And
oh,
just
lovely
taking
shot.
a chance on this, and that gives the call for Tizzeren, who's round the corner, boxed him in. The Tam's just going to bleed out and said, well, he's nowhere to be found, unfortunately. He's off on his own. And yeah, Unity, sprint across the apartment block, have just basically battered CrowCrowd on arrival.
Yeah, the stalemate's still kind of going on. And
Look at
Reciprocity
Fast angle.
And I'm glad he did this. It's provided them a different angle to work from. He can watch the cross. He can keep the kind of push around the back of the house safe. He's just trying to provide angles, and that's it. Digital Athletics have just been on the receiving end of Snark. Found Iroh, and then just kind of started the ball rolling with the nade as well towards a beautiful death. I think Mertz actually the only one standing. That M19 phase battle has been building, and also Winstrike are up there in the northwest. That's also going on. Blue on the back, Mert needs to move. FaZe control M19, and after them having a good week, that could be a bit of a disappointment for them. Now it's Winstrike turn to join in. Hopefully we can get a little bit of a glimpse on that. You can see it there. Winstrike were pushing out. It looks like FaZe might just be down to Fuzzface at this point, and he's trying to fall back, but I think he's going to be picked up. Actually, yeah, let's see if he can get away with this. It looks like Winstrike were hunting, but he's found a bit of a dip. He might be able to stay alive. Circle, just east of Picardo. TSM not really having to move.
1 player left for FaZe Clan. Fuzz is just opting to disengage from this one and jog on. Hax does get a bit of revenge earlier on and finish off 1 player out in the open.
He might get Uber up.
Maybe. There is actually, I thought it was a lot further away from that. That's a good call. He probably will do now.
Yeah.
Provided he's got the health. I just thought it was way too far and in the opposite way, but that's me just been completely blind. Unfortunately, NIP have now wandered into Picardo as well. TSM still there. They moved into boxing ring, at least on the backside. The rest of them will come down the hill, but they are going to be extremely damaged because there's so many teams here just playing border patrol.
NIP have leapfrogged Team Liquid want to do this. It looked like Team Liquid are about to try and head off towards this position because this spot is rough out here. You've got that big open field, very open division, but there's enough room. They can pull into this, and we know that Liquid can fight in this area. TSM exactly the same. We've got some heavy hitters towards that boxing ring now. CrowCrowd, Unity still around, Vitality.
Liquid's going for it.
And it is them just crashing in. They're just going to try and get on the kind of, I guess, the far west buildings are smaller, low-ground buildings. They can take those over, get vision towards NIP, and TSM still have to deal with the CIS teams. ENCE are about to get crashed, potentially by Reciprocity. Now they've got issues on 2 fronts. Raise Your Edge peeled away in towards the hillside. They're further off towards the east. In the south, it's that 3-way battle.
It's messy on several different points of this map, so we'll try and keep a tabs on them as much as humanly possible. Remember, for Liquid, this is their home turf. This is their drop zone. Taking this back would be a big, big scalp to claim if they manage to do so. But you got Set inside the tower blocks, you got TSM at one end, you got NIP at the other.
The thing is, though, for this fight, I don't see either of these teams really make it. And, okay, Liquid are always a little bit of a curveball because sometimes they do something so dumb it works. Yeah. It's just because they're such good players, they can get away with it, right?
No
it's like,
fear.
Exactly. Now, FaZe are in danger. I think Fuzzface is kind of away, so it won't be a quick knockout. But the thing is, with the teams in Picardo, I don't think they're going to make big moves. They're going to hold where they are for now. It's all the teams on the outskirts, like your Vitality holding back Na'Vi. It's like FaZe with just FaZe trying to get anywhere. Winstrike hold the line. G2 could fold onto them. You have that ENCE, Raise Your Edge, Reciprocity battle in the south. Na'Vi are moving forward towards Vitality, and we don't need to look at this because I can assure you they probably won't fight. If they do, it'd be very surprising. Sixmo making a move, though, towards Picardo could be interesting. Liquid could get vision on that.
It's an extremely good play, just to note on from Raise Your Edge to completely disengage from those battles and say, you know what? ENCE, Reciprocity, crack on, boys. Fight your battles, do what you want, Rafi. Unfortunately, will go down. Trefeli with very little health, just absolutely battering so many members. Finally, there is a response there. Rustamar,
he tried to buy time
standing with no health, though.
Yeah, you could see Trefeli trying to buy time for Rustamar to get off the heel. That was his plan. It was that I need to peek. I might die, but at least my teammate might survive because they're going to push that. You know, it's a bad situation. And speaking of bad situations, hello, FaZe. How does it feel right now? That's a big boy shot.
Health.
That sort of thing might get you banned, my guy, but he's dead. He's dead in the water. You can't do anything. He'll probably just die to the blue, which is fine. He's accepted his fate. Down he goes, 14th. Not ideal, but they had a rough start anyway, so best of a bad spot. Liquid have continued their rotation from west to south at the moment.
Ibby.
Ibby's just...
Ibby. That's...
dinked Jempty.
Jempty plays for you now. He's not on FaZe. Come on, bro.
He saw FaZe in the kill feed. He got excited.
I'm guessing it's just going to be a crossfire. Unfortunately, they have moved further and deeper inside Picardo, which is fine because the circle will move, and that actually puts them in. They're no longer edging the bets and going to have to run the gauntlet. NIP, TSM,
this is
one
a
from
horrible
CrowCrowd,
ending.
one from Unity, one from Digital Athletics. Sixmo, I think, or at least one of the players from DA did have a level 3 gear on with a Groza earlier on, so if he gets involved, Terminator could be knocking on the back doors and causing all kinds of problems. G2 still in the circle, Vitality, their play. But Raise Your Edge, out of all this maneuver that's going on, Lauren, Raise Your Edge have come out on top. They moved early from the fights that were going down in the south, and now they can watch for Reciprocity, or what's left of them at least, to come out from the buildings and batter them as they try and make it to Picardo.
I'm not looking at this circle, though. I'm thinking about the next one, because
gonna be hell.
everyone's screwed, because you got a road with
Leads to
subtle
nowhere.
cover. Yeah, it's going to be so hard for these teams now. G2 looking like they want to go towards Vitality, but they might change that up, because Braxico's trying to hedge his bets. He might try and find somewhere else. There is room on these hillsides, but I can assure you, one of these players, if not someone on the other side, will have vision on it. So as much as you may be able to make a little bit of cover, this is what I mean. G2 can spot out Na'Vi already, and they aren't even pushed that far forward down this hill. You can see once you get about halfway down from where Na'Vi are, you're very open. There's very few trees. Reciprocity is sending it right towards Picardo. Keep your eyes on the kill feed. Scoom's having a bit of an issue here. And that's Unity diving in on the shots, but there could be a million other teams. There's teams up top. There's Raise Your Edge diving in on it. It's TSM to get the kill.
Stolen.
Gustav gets it. Shiv has turned up. Rory sees it, and Rory gets it. Good work from TSM, controlling their ground.
Another proactive mover here, just moving from where they were at the top of the boxing ring to the outskirts and deeper into the circle, because we would suspect that this drags away from Picardo and actually goes to where the drop's coming in the middle of the map.
Tixu, that's sick! That's such good work actually from Winstrike.
Low ball.
I thought the dink that came back towards his teammate on Timur was going to be the end of it, but Tixu taking that time then to push forward, unbeknownst to them, was
Look
so
at this
smart.
reposition.
Let's see if he doesn't spot the angle. He didn't see him. He's going to see him now, but there's a problem. There's a player behind him. He's got one other teammate to worry about. Kane's too far to help out here. Tixu's nade could be very good. Oh, what was that?
That's on him.
That's
beautiful.
That nade worked. It was a knock coming out from Chris as well. The steal on Urdir. That's pretty nice work. Kane's under fire as well. G2 tried to run down. They were one of the first teams to start trying to do this. Shadow, in the meantime, is swinging over from the east as well. He's coming down to the other side of G2. G2 are in all kinds of trouble. Look at this. Shadow's about to peek up and over that ridge. He's going to get a glimpse in about 3, 2, 1. Bye, Kane. Nothing to do. Chris is your last man alive for them. And I feel like he's got a bit of a limit on how long he's going to stand.
This is quite a brazen maneuver from Vitality to send one player up there, not only on his own, but more importantly, as the last one's holding the building. There's nowhere else really to go, and you know they're going to be on this ridge line. But he makes it work. He gets a point. He puts G2 in a very sticky situation in the fact that 3 members of Winstrike are still standing. Circle will be closing in any second. This is going to get so messy. Yoink.
Raise your edge,
Wow.
you absolutely jammy gits.
Wow.
Okay, Na'Vi have to fight Raise Your Edge, and they've just realized that. Look at it. Here you go. Senya, Pokemon, Best Watch. They want to get up there now. They want to get there fast before everyone pours across G2. Well, I say G2. It's pretty much Chris right now making a mad man's dash for it. Anywhere he can, he's found a shack, and he might just commit to it. He's got nothing else. Prone down, stay alive. And now let's look at Picardo. Picardo is going to be brutal. Blaston holds back Jeems. That's a confirm as well. Sixmo's on the other side. So even if they get past one, you're going to have Sixmo finding Jempty. Liquid are caught in a crossfire they never even knew existed, and they're being cut down. just systematically. This is not good. That was lackluster from Liquid to feel as though they could get that far.
He knows where he
A
is.
steal
That
again.
nade.
Samty's gone down. That's a good nade. Now TSM, how can they get past Nip? Or should I say, how can Nip get past TSM?
TSM will hold this one for now and
There's
try and
the valve,
mop
this
up
is
as
big.
much as possible.
This could be for the winning position, if I'm completely honest. They're so damaged. Chris really had to go big here. I think he's one of the only players up right now. It looks like Razor Edge have 2 players knocked. Na'Vi are in a bit of a bad position themselves. Best launch, what a shot coming out from him. Instantly pushes back Chris. Now Na'Vi need to move up here. They need to get ground, and that's exactly what he's doing. He needs to claim these points. He's out on the hunt. No chances of revives here. No men standing. Chris and the rest of Razor Edge just got completely pushed aside by Na'Vi.
He instantly goes for the box, and that's because he had no helmet on. He leaves Senya just to keep a tab on Chris so he can't do more damage. And again, confirming those kills is vital at this point for the simple fact. Liquid's gone. They were split between 2 teams.
It was sloppy the way they pushed out then, if I'm honest. For a caliber of Liquid, you know there's a chance that there's going to be so many snakes in there, and they had to make a move, sure. There's never a good, easy choice, but that was rough, and they got picked apart, and they weren't able to trade back in. That aside, NIP are also in danger. Leaving Picardo has become the hardest thing these teams have had to do just yet. TSM were the furthest, the closest to the new circle. So they've played their time. They've been able to kind of bide their time in this, but now they will have to move eventually. They're trying to take down NIP, and they're succeeding at that. NIP fall in 7th, but now they need to start making the run, and these snakes could hinder them as well.
The big issue is Chris. He's in the ditch, and he's got the marker. The smokes are up. That's a nice little wall from TSM.
That's
Rory's
nice.
also got a vehicle, so he could perform some sort of a defensive
They're
maneuver
almost in.
here.
They're
or at
almost
least
in.
get them inside it. He can crash on this and maybe even use the crate, but if they get that hill, they're going to be laughing. They could deny line of sight or pill. Gustav in with a nade. If he gets Chris, that'll be huge. There's more and multiple flying his way. You know he needs to back out. But the problem is that basically he's holding him in and boxing him in because there's a separate angle coming through.
Yeah, Jorski's angle is being a real nuisance. Winstrike have actually got a wonderful foothold here. They've completely controlled the north. They've taken their time. They were quite quiet throughout that, past that phase fight, and you know what happened. Gustav is out in the open looking for cover. That is testing the water. He knows he has to get forward. He maybe was desperate for a vest, a helmet, something. Chris forced into action, but that has alerted Na'Vi.
Nades up, doesn't have the full information, but a best guess. Jorski, obviously going for those kills earlier on now, reveals themselves. Timmy's moved up and give them a foothold in this circle at least, but it's certainly a very risky open land for everyone at the moment. Chris still standing strong. He's actually the most center compared to anybody, but he is on his own, and it is a prime position. So if TSM can get a lucky nade or at least some kind of good push on this, they'll be laughing for now.
I really hope we can see first person because I want to see how much utility they have. They used maybe 3 or 4 smokes to cross out Picardo, which were incredibly vital, of course. To get past this, you need maybe 2, 3 at minimum as well to get to that next cover, and then you've got to fight Chris, and then you've got Blaston just trying to be a nuisance. I want to see TSM's run. I don't want to be watching Jorski right now. I want to see it from their perspective. Please. Okay, no. All right, let's see how far they can make it. They're going to try and get towards some cover. Chris has helped them out by finding Blaston. TSM clearly had a couple of smokes they put down, but there's not many. That's one I see there. I don't know if there's a second, but they've made it to that foot of the hill. And actually, because of this, no one can see them from the other side. They still have to keep moving forward. I don't think there's any threats barring Chris.
It was actually a really good kill from Chris. It actually helped them out because it took away a certain angle that was looking from them in the form of Blaston. They've managed to get into the circle by hook or by crook. I have no idea how. But still, they're there. Tiksu and the rest of Winstrike, they are
MK,
gifted.
level 3.
Literally,
Ooh.
in this circle, gifted, that is pretty huge.
Yeah, that's nasty as hell.
It's mainly the gear. If you've had damage before in a previous fight, you've just upgraded yourself completely.
I'm worried if... do Winstrike know that Na'Vi are there?
I don't think so, because they're actually behind the hill. They
yeah.
won't even see them. They didn't reveal the position yet.
No, they haven't. So there could be an awkward moment here. If Winstrike engage towards either Chris, TSM, ex-Chris, any of the teams who are rolling down the hill towards the west, Na'Vi will just kind of crunch over the top. Now, it looks like they're trying to keep tabs on this. The fire's beginning. That's going to be TSM engaging towards Chris. Bit of a glimpse, that's more than enough. That keeps attention there. Now, Na'Vi have fired. Instantly, Winstrike turned around. I just saw that on the map. Instantly, Winstrike went from looking down that hill, spun on a dime, and just instantly knew, okay, we've got other problems here. We need to get rid of this team behind us.
The problem is TSM, I'm going to give away their position for now. Chris does go down, and it's an insta. Obviously, last man standing. You're not going to be getting any kind of res. Circle's been kind to TSM, and actually Chris as well. He could back off, and he'd have the last shack inside this circle, or at least just the bitter end of it. Winstrike's pushing up aggressively. Jorski's holding the angle on the northern edge of the circle. Timmy's also pushed up to the blue to deny any form of further movement. But he is creeping. He might not be ready for this.
Senja could isolate maybe a 1v1 against Tema here. I don't know how much of an angle Jorski would have to work with. No, okay, yeah, Jorski does have an angle that's really well covered. The damage is big, though, from Na'Vi. That's a problem. But they're being very hyper-aware that Chris on the other side for Raise Your Edge is still around. He's going to be a nuisance. TSM hold the circle at the moment. And the problem is Winstrike can't move forward without dealing with Na'Vi unless Na'Vi peel away, and they can't depend on that. It's a horrible stalemate, and they desperately want Na'Vi to make a play so they can handle it, and then they can work forward. But they're just stuck here waiting to try and deal with this. And until they can, until Na'Vi are forced forward by the blue, it's going to be a tricky time. Tixu hits the deck. Senja unleashes the bullets, but the blue is forcing them further and further forward. Senja's hitting shots here, but the Finns still stand.
Molly just comes from nowhere. Chris opts to the SLR, so now maybe he wants to get involved in this. He doesn't have to do it just yet. He could be quite secretive, not reveal his position just yet. The fire actually denies vision just for a second. Grenades are coming out from this one. And again, this angle might be pretty good from Jorski, holding it back. TSM are held at bay. They don't have to get involved just yet.
That is so good.
That's the grenade. That's the door opener. Do they make a push in it, though?
And
They wait for Senja
so
up against.
The blues could be coming in as well. Senja has no time here. He's just run out of options. He has to make a play. He has to make a run. And that is incredibly patient. Chris comes in with the steal as well. Bided his time incredibly well. Hits the deck back down. He's in the circle at the moment. He's safe. Senja tries to stab, but he's got all eyes on him. In the meantime, TSM center up. The next nade comes through. That one seals the deal. We've got 3 alive for Winstrike, 2 for TSM, and then 1 for Raise Your Edge.
Winstrike have the numbers, and they have the ability as well. For the simple fact they're wearing those level 3s, just freshly upgraded, catches one of the TSM members in the back. That could be the warning shot, but they do have to come down from this one and move into TSM. TSM have the ground advantage.
But that nade's good. Rory's in danger.
Might not have the gear.
Michael's just found Chris, and I don't think he knows this is a separate team. If you look at the cover that TSM have, it's not great, and actually the timing couldn't be worse. Chris has 6 bullets left, but that flash could be decent, and Michael is looking everywhere. He's so scared right now of what's going on. That nade bounces a little too far, but Winstrike slowly but surely working their way down this hill towards what feels like TSM's impending doom. I'm a bit worried for them here. They aren't being proactive, and it's hard to be when you've got so many threats on so many fronts.
Strength in numbers. TSM have an advantage that they know no one's behind them. You literally can't get behind them, but everybody has to move. The blue's just going to kill them. If not, you might see some teams, maybe even Chris, just denying points, which is fine. I'm okay with it.
Oh, Michael's got an angle. Oh, Jorski's so good at holding these down. I want to highlight how good Jorski is at delivering, at holding those angles that TSM could have worked from. Now, looking at this, though, if you look at the overall map, it's actually evened out here. That center point is no man's land. Everyone's quite close to this. Chris is probably slightly further out, but he can crawl a little further forward. TSM need to make their mind up. They want it to be done for them, but they will have to pick a poison eventually because Winstrike do hold the numbers, and Chris will always try and be that last man to fight.
It's Winstrike's angles that they have. Tixu's completely peeled off from the rest of the pack, so he can send 2 down, up close and personal with the ARs, and he can just sit back with the Mark 14. Maybe even try and deal with Chris. He might have the information. The smokes, again, will help him out to get a little bit further forward.
This shows absolutely no context of the actual ground available. Keep in mind, Michael and Rory's Ridge is about to be pushed out, so they're going to be in the eyes of Winstrike.
Do or die.
It is do or die time. They need to make the play, and they might just accept their fate. Tixu found Chris. They're down to the top 2. Rory's found Jorski. Maybe his game on. Oh, the spray, if only he could have summoned the spirit of break, it might have worked, but it doesn't in the end. The Finns were cool, calm, and collected, and they worked out their end perfectly.
There could be a certain factor in there.